Hey, deserving listeners, Love is Blind, Season 4. Let's see what happens and see what comes out of my face as I see what happens.
Well, nights ago, Jackie told me that she wanted more from me. She needed more from me. She wants me to be more aggressive. I had her tell it. She wants me to be more aggressive in the bedroom. You know, somebody will slap around a little bit. You know, not physically.
Drama.
But like, yeah.
Drama.
It's not who I am. It's never who I will be.
Okay, there's so many questions about how Jackie feels what she said, how he feels what he said. We're hearing a little bit more detail. It'd be really easy to draw some conclusions. As a person who has talked with a lot of couples about sexuality and preferences and differences and libido and even this very thing of aggression and even consensual non-consent, that kind of thing, it's complicated. And there's a lot of things you have to ask someone before you know what they're talking about. So on one hand, is it that Jackie wants BDSM, wants there to be some slapping? Some people they have that preference, and as long as it's consensual and you have a whole system and you work it out beforehand and you have safe words and you talk about it afterwards, there's a whole system within the BDSM community that works really well to facilitate play and fun and sexuality and getting turned on and community while also remaining safe. It doesn't mean that you don't have moments where things go too far and there's some hurt feelings, maybe even some mild trauma that can happen at times. Obviously, there's an attempt to avoid that, but sometimes people are even trying to work out some of their demons. For some people who are into BDSM, they were abused growing up. Now, people will conclude sometimes simplistically that somehow everyone into BDSM was abused in their growing up. That's not true. The research doesn't demonstrate that. It could be that the abuse might encourage it a little bit, might be a factor in some people's desire to engage in BDSM. It's hard to know what's going on there because we can't really draw causal connections. But it also could just be that there's a set of people who are into BDSM, there's a set of people who aren't. There's also a set of people who are abused growing up, and there's a set of people that aren't. And there's a Venn diagram of overlap between those two groups, and they're not really associated with each other. Anyway, my point is that there's a version of this story that she literally wants to be slapped around consensually, and there are rules around it, and she wants him to do that. And for him, he's just like, I can't do that. And there's a lot of things in this category, like if someone is into vor, or someone's into baby play, or someone's into role play, or someone's into dirty talk, and there can be adjustments. Say you have two people, and one person really loves dirty talk, and they have to have it, or they really, 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 really want it, and their partner is just like, I don't know, I've never done dirty talk. It's like, it doesn't turn me on. It's kind of weird. So there are two paths, and there's an exploration and there's experimentation. And this is what I do with couples. When we experiment, and of course it has to be checked in on so that you're not forcing someone to do something they don't want to do. Things can be triggered in terms of trauma, so we monitor that. So there's three categories of people. The person who initially says they're not into dirty talk. There's a possible path where they actually discover that they are into dirty talk, but they never experimented with it or never allowed themselves to do it because of sexual shame. So that's one path where they actually find that, oh my God, I do love dirty talk, or I'm learning to like it, that kind of thing. There's another version where another path of the future where they're okay doing it, but it's not their first choice. And this happens a lot in sexual relationships. It's totally common, and sometimes you don't even really register it in your brain as it's happening, but it's totally common to be doing activities with your partner or partners that it was not at the top of your list, but you're totally okay with doing it, and you'll get into it, that kind of thing. So there's that path where someone eventually is like, yeah, absolutely, dirty talk, she wants to do it, and I'm up for it. It's a little different for me, but sometimes I get into it. But if their partner said, I don't want to do any more dirty talk, they would be totally okay with that. There's another road where they try dirty talk and they give it the old college try, and they just can't do it. It's too much of a turnoff, or it's too hard for them. So there's a version of this where Marshall is like, look, I know you want me to slap you around, or I know you want me to be aggressive, and I cannot do that. It's too much of a turnoff to me. It's too much not me. I tried to do it a little bit. It's too against what I want to be doing. Like, it's repulsive to me, that kind of thing. And then you have a conversation, because for some people with the kink, it's a deal breaker. They have to be with someone because it's that important to them, or it's the only way that they can proceed sexually. Whereas for some people, maybe there's a sublimation, maybe there's a replacement. Like instead of them doing it together, maybe she watches pornography that involves that, and then later on they have sex, or I don't know. There's a fantasy version of this that she might be able to engage in, or maybe there's a different version of aggression that she wants that he could do that is okay with him, maybe even something he likes. I don't know. So there's a lot of conversations, a lot of experimentation, and you can't depend on people to know what they want because there's so much sexual shame that a lot of people are prevented from experimenting with things, and thus they don't even know if they want to do it because they've never tried it before. Now, we never force people to try things they don't want to, of course, but if they're up for it, then, you try it out. And sometimes it takes a while, but, you have to try it a few times to really overcome the awkwardness and the unfamiliarity of it. But anyway, so I don't know if we're talking about that. I don't know if we're talking about him misinterpreting things where she just wanted him to be more assertive, more, I don't know, powerful or more insistent or something, hitting on her more often or coming at her in a particular way, a particular vibe with her, and we wouldn't call that aggression or slapping her around the way that he's saying right now, or what? There's just a lot of questions, and I use this as a jumping off point because I'm guessing that there's a percentage of you that are in relationships right now where what I'm talking about is the topic of interest to you and or it's related. There are so many couples that would benefit from having real adult, safe, open conversations with themselves and with their partners about what they want to do sexually. Sometimes you're starting from the beginning where you might even just be like, you know what? I don't know what I like. I've never even thought about it. I never thought that was possible. And now that I'm in a safe relationship, I, for the first time, I guess, have the freedom to explore what I want and what I like with someone. So I don't even, forget about kinks. I don't even know if I want to have sex to begin with. I've never even had that opportunity to ask that for that. There are people that have had lives that are like that, right? They put themselves in the back burner. Of course, being abused can be a factor. And so I suggest that if you would like to, I'm guessing everyone watching right now, there's something there for you to think about because there's so much sexual shame. There is so much preventing us from being our bodies and being ourselves. And it doesn't mean that you have to change things, doesn't mean you have to do different things, but you definitely have the freedom to be yourself, and explore your sexuality with your partner or in your life. You have that freedom. And it can be a beautiful thing. It can be a spiritual thing. It can be a bonding thing. There's so much opportunity there, right? Maybe there are even things that you don't like, that you don't like, that are happening right now, and you just never had you felt like you could never say anything, because you didn't feel like you had the language, or you worried that you were going to bother the other person. And of course, couple therapy and a sex therapist can help with this.
In the bedroom, somebody will slap around a little bit, not physically, drama, but yeah.
So he said, yes, someone will slap her around a little bit, not physically. So what does that mean? Metaphorically slap her around? What does that mean?
That's not who I am. It's never who I will be. She wants that toxic kind of love, and I recognize it. Because I've dealt with women like that before.
Yeah, I wondered about that too. And we don't know if he's accurate in his conclusion. But I did wonder if at least he saw it that way, or it even was that way, or it has that potential, or it's in that direction where she has traumas around that and is familiar and comfortable with how he says toxic sexuality, toxic relationships. And she has a love-hate relationship with that, but that's what she's comfortable with. And so that's what she was asking for, or that's how he's interpreting it. It sounds like that's how he's definitely interpreting it. So we don't know if Marshall, has reasons to believe that. We just didn't get any data. Sometimes these shows will give us enough data to go off, but we didn't hear enough, so we don't know. I tend to think Marshall has a pretty good head on his shoulders and would see things at least somewhat rationally, but who knows? I mean, there's a possibility that he did have that trigger. She was just asking for something that was not in this direction, but because he has a complex with masculinity, he overshot it and assumed like, oh my God, you just want me to be this aggressive, horrible, abusive person, just like my last girlfriend. I don't know. There's just a lot of questions.
She wants that toxic kind of love, and I recognize it. Because I've dealt with women like that before. I'm the first guy and the first real man in their life who treats them like something. And I never thought that it would be this bad.
It could also be that Marshall is being defensive because he is trying to establish that codependent overfunctioning relationship, and she's making it difficult for him to do that, and he needs to find a conceptualization, a distortion to pathologize her, to keep her in the underfunctioning role. I don't know. But there's definitely a possibility that his conceptualization is in the ballpark. Maybe even Jackie would agree with it, kind of. She would just be like, yeah, I have a history, and I was asking him to do some things. He wasn't comfortable with it, but I don't know. It's just something that I like. There's also a possibility that she's just kinky, or, again, just wants a little bit more aggression. I don't know if we'd call that necessarily kinky, but that she wants that, and he is interpreting it as, oh my God, you want me to slap you around? And she'd be like, no, I don't want you to slap me around. I just want you to be more initiating. Because so it's just impossible to know, because you will hear people say, so there's another world where when they have sex and they're physical together, that he just basically lays there. Who knows? Probably not, but of all the possibilities. And in his mind, he's being aggressive and, a little bit. And she's just like, can I get some kind of indication that you want to do this, or can some kind, who knows? And her criticism to him is saying what she said, and because he thinks everything is fine, he's just like, oh my God, she wants me to, and she's like, no, I just want you to be a regular person in bed, whatever. So, there's just so many possibilities. The reason why I'm throwing all this out there is because I worry that people will draw very quick, simplistic conclusions based on almost no information. There's a lot of information, but we would need so much more to be able to conclude what's happening. We just don't know. They both could be distorted. They both could. It's hard to tell. And I guess the reason why I say this is because I want to protect everyone on the show, Jackie and Marshall included, but also in your own life when you hear about stuff like this. And even when you think it, if your partner asks you to do something, I think a tendency, given our sexual shame and our lack of practice with this, we might actually simplistically categorize this like, oh my God, like one of the things that I will hear sometimes, this is rarer, but someone will say that they're into baby play, or they're into role play, or they're into vor, or they're into BDSM. And if another person doesn't have any experience with that, they will think, oh my God, my partner's a serial killer. And that's because we draw very simplistic conclusions, because we're all basically like teenagers running around on the playground and we don't have any information, and so we're just drawing conclusions based on very little information. So I say that as a way of trying to propagate the idea of just like, you got to ask a lot of questions to understand what's really happening. And you also can't depend on people to know themselves very well because of the amount of sexual shame that we subject people to. So there's just a lot of questions.
It's hard because I do genuinely love this girl.
I think from the start in the pods, me and you always been good. So thank you for opening up to me. I've opened up to you.
Yeah.
With that being said, you a good dude. I know you're a good dude. You're trying to do the best. You're trying to show her what a life with you could be like. This is who you are. This is what you're about.
Yeah, I will comment on Brett's support and his very concise love for Marshall right now, which is great to see.
This is what you're about. And if she's not ready for that, then she's just not ready for that.
She wants to be with me. She fucks with me tough. That's what she says. She never told me that she loves me. She told me that she cares about me. And so now I'm just kind of between a rock and a hard place.
Did he say she's never said that she loves him? That doesn't preclude marriage possibilities, but is that what you just said?
She fucks with me tough. That's what she says. She never told me that she loves me.
She never told me, or is he saying she hasn't said it recently or something? But that is notable, right? But she's expressed love towards him. So maybe it just takes her longer to say. Sometimes it takes a while. I don't know.
Keep it together. You're good. You're good.
You look so hot.
Queen.
Thank you. I had to be.
I already know, Jackie.
Hi,
I know
how
how
are
you
you,
feel, girl.
100%.
How are you?
Okay, good. I was like, this isn't going to become some terribly awkward situation. She goes right up to him, hugs him warmly, and that's good. I was like, are we going to watch them stare each other off the entire time? So, okay. This isn't 90 Day Fiancé. This is Love is Blind.
Okay.
Here.
No, because it's gonna ruin my outfit.
But you're not about to catch a cold, though.
I'll be fine.
Put this around your shoulder.
I'll be fine. You're ruining my body.
Girl, put this around your shoulder.
Don't force her to wear your coat because Josh is there and she... don't do that, Marshall. So this is heading in the codependent region, in the more invasive, controlling. This is what a parent does to a child. He's treating her like a child, which is in the direction of codependency, and also just controlling out of jealousy, which is not a good look and uncool and not great. Not good. Stop it.
How are you? I'm okay.
Here.
No, because it's gonna ruin my outfit.
But you're not about to catch a cold, though.
I'll be fine.
Put this around your shoulder.
I'll be fine. You're ruining my body.
Girl, put this around your shoulder.
So in the jealous person's mind or the codependent's mind, they will have a justification. They will feel like they're right. He hugged her and he noticed that she's really cold. I could see that happening. It's late in a spring evening in Seattle. It can get pretty cold. She doesn't wear a jacket, so she gets to do what she wants to do with that, Marshall. But in his mind, he could be like, she's freezing and I want to protect her and I want to comfort her, right? If my wife is cold and I'm nice and toasty in my jacket, I will do the same thing for her. And if my wife is just like, no, you keep your coat. I don't want to take your coat away. Sometimes I'll just put the coat on her because I'm like, I'll be okay. If I get too cold, I'll take the coat back. How about that? I'm not above that. And so I would do that even though she's protesting. I believe she's protesting because she doesn't want to put me out, but I'm like, I'm okay. So I do that. And it's sort of like when I was younger and my parents or my aunts and uncles, my Japanese aunts and uncles would be trying to give me money at the end of the night. There'd be like a dinner or something, a get together, and they'd be like, you need some money? I'd be like, no, I'm okay. And I always just bust out the 20 or the 100 to be like, take it, and I'd be like, I'm okay. Because Japanese, it's always about giving and refusing. And then I'd get home and the 20 or the 50 would be in my pocket. They'd literally slip it in as they're hugging me. I'd be like, what's this? I'd be like, auntie, you did it again. Anyway, so sometimes you're just insisting even though the person is resisting. So he could be justifying it to himself in that way. He could also be saying, look, there was that track record. So this is another talk about codependency and underfunctioning I could talk about. I don't know if this applies to them. There's very little indication of that, but there are some signs. So that's why I'm talking about it. That for codependent people, and I didn't mention this last time, and I was actually kind of thinking about this later. I should have mentioned that codependent people are sometimes 100% driven, not always, but often they are by anxiety. They are terrified, and they have reasons. Like he could be thinking, I don't want her to have a cold, and just completely obsessing on, she's cold. I don't want her to get a cold. If she gets a cold, then she gets in a bad mood. Then, what if she has a bad heart or whatever, and I just can't have that happen. So I just got to get that. And then if you're the target of that codependency, you might just give in because you're just like, okay, fine, I'll wear the coat. Will you please calm down? That kind of. So sometimes it's out of desperation because the person has tremendous anxiety and they apply it to someone else. They are constantly worried about someone else's safety. And although the worry is justified and normal, it's way excessive. And the amount of time they spend thinking about it and the amount of sacrifices that they will take for it and the amount of controlling or doting or micromanaging behavior that they exhibit is way over the top and is overall destructive to someone. So I want to point that out as well. I didn't emphasize that a lot last time. Sometimes codependent people are, because I was framing it mainly as something of justifying their place on earth, which is also a potential part of it. But another part of it is just absolute terror. Another part of it is just control of, I am worried I'm going to lose you if you wear that outfit. Someone looks at you, I don't know. It could be a lot of different things, but if I were a little birdie on Marshall's shoulder, I was just like, she doesn't want to wear the coat. Let it go.
It's going to ruin my outfit.
But you're not about to catch a cold, though.
I'll be fine.
Put this around your shoulder.
I'll be fine. You're ruining my body.
Girl, put this around your shoulder. I have plenty of.
It's messing up my.
You look good, actually.
Thanks.
You look good.
Now, maybe she actually wanted that. Maybe it was like that $20 bill in my pocket from my auntie, because I did need that $20 bill. And so maybe that's the dynamic. I don't know. So maybe I was wrong because she seems to be okay with it. But is she just giving in? I don't know.
Bye.
I came here trying to find love, and I got screwed over. But I was really in love with Jackie, and I was scared of like really putting myself out there. Marshall's an amazing guy, and I didn't come back here to like fuck him over or anything. I just came.
Okay, good. I'm glad. We don't know Josh that well thus far, so it's good to hear that he's a rational, good human being. He's just like, look, Marshall is a good guy. It sounds like Josh is concluding that he didn't put himself out there enough to Jackie, and thus lost his chance to be with Jackie because of that. He's still thinking that'd be normal to think that. It's just like because he was in love with her. He wanted to marry her, and he could conclude. You can imagine a lot of people thinking this is just like, how did they not choose me? I felt it. I felt that love. And she did say she loved me, or she did like me too a lot. So maybe Marshall went for it more. You know, why did she choose him? There's a lot of debate within there. It could be a lot of false conclusions there. But okay, but we're just hearing from him that I was just like, oh no, what's going to happen? So he's saying here, I'm not here to screw anything up. So that's good.
I'm here to see my friends, but like, do I put Marshall before how I feel? I honestly think that he put himself before how I feel.
What? Jackie chose him. What are you talking about? But yeah, I mean, you were both wanting to be with the same woman, so you were both going to put yourself forward in that situation. So Josh is concluding that somehow Marshall unfairly lobbied for Jackie to pick him. And Josh is now saying, look, what is he saying? I'm going to hit on Jackie right now because I deserve to. Like, what? Now, Jackie and Marshall, who knows? They don't seem like they're going to work out. So maybe in the future, Josh and Jackie could date for sure. This probably wouldn't be the time to broach that topic.
It's been eating at me on the inside where I'm like, I'm going to lay it out there with Jackie. And whatever happens, happens. Marshall's a good guy, but I'm gonna stir in the pot, motherfucker.
Let's stir the pot. How about you just DM her tomorrow? Call her. Why here? Why now? Why stir the pot? Why?
Ooh, this is good.
It's good, huh?
This is good. I like this. I'm gonna need like 4 or 5. Hi.
What's up?
How are you? How are you?
How you doing?
Good.
Isn't it weird, like meeting everybody? Like,
So for Josh, this would be the first time he would see Jackie in person. Is that right? I think that's right? So that's got to be a trip for him.
oh!
All right, well, that is for that episode in which I yammer about this TV show. Interesting show. Really like this show. Do you like this show? Let me know in the comments. And everyone, please take care of yourself because you deserve it. You really, really do.